In this video lesson, we're going to be talking about Select and Mask. Select and Mask is a very useful tool for refining any selection you have made, be that with the more professional selection methods such as the pen tool or channel masking, or with the quicker selection methods such as the lasso tool or any other regular selection tools. You can also use it to adjust an existing mask. Select and Mask does have features that allow you to make some selections within the Select and Mask feature itself, but this is very heavy on RAM and can be quite difficult to work with because of this. This is why we're going to be focusing on it as a way to refine an existing selection. We're also going to give a quick rundown of some of the more standard quicker methods to create selections before adjusting them using Select and Mask. So I'm just going to make a quick selection here to show you how you can get to Select and Mask. So if I was just to make just any shape over here and make a selection, and then I could go to Select and drop down to Select and Mask. Then if I was going to make a mask and I wanted to go to Select and Mask to adjust that mask, all I'd have to do is press on the mask, and in my Properties palette, Select and Mask would be available. Then if you are using any of the standard selection tools in the top tool palette here, you'll see that Select and Mask becomes available in your Properties panel at the top here. Generally, we use professional selection methods when we need to make advanced complex selections, but when we have something that is well defined and has a good level of contrast and a relatively sharp edge, then you can save some time and use one of the quick or standard selection tools. I'll briefly go over these now. So we have the lasso tool here, which we've got selected, and it makes broad freehand selections that don't need to be too accurate, but it can be really useful. So you can just make an easy drawn freehand selection like that, and then you can press Shift to add to that selection, or you can press the Add to Selection button at the top here, or you can press Option or this button to subtract from the selection. And then you could press the intersect button to intersect from the selections. So I'm just going to deselect that. Then we've got the polygonal lasso tool. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's very much like the pen tool. It's just there's no arms to move and you can't really change the points around once you've created points. But as you can see, you can be quite accurate and controlled with it. It's useful when you want to have some of the accuracy of the pen tool, but you don't need to take all the time that the pen tool takes. I'm just going to delete that. And again, you've got those options available to adjust your selection with. Then there's the magnetic lasso tool. And if we just zoom into the teeth here, it works like creating a magnetic pull between the path and the edges of the image. So as you can see, it's sort of finding that edge with my hand guiding it in the direction I want it to go. And that's because the tooth is quite a well-defined area there. So it's got quite a sharp edge as well. So that's the magnetic lasso tool. Then we've got our quick selection tool. And the quick selection tool works to make selections by following the edges of an image as well. And changing the size of the selection tool allow you to adjust the range that it's seeing. So if you wanted for it to see a broad range, you could make it quite broad. And then you can see it's finding the edges of that lipstick there quite well. And there you go. It's found that bottom lip there. Or I could make the tool a bit smaller and again, see if it'll find the edges of these teeth here. So as you can see, it can be quite a fast selection tool if you've got a defined edge. Then if you right click and drop down, you can get to the Magic Wand tool. And the Magic Wand, it works by finding areas of similar color within an image. And it would be quite good to find that tooth again. And I want to just add those highlights. So I'm going to press Shift, or I could press that button there. And there you go. You can see how quick that was to find that tooth. So I'm just going to deselect that. And again, just a reminder that with all of the selection tools, you've got the options at the top there. So just for the purposes of speed, I've actually created a quick path for the lips here. And once you've made your selection using whichever selection method you would like, you can take it into Select and Mask, which actually used to be called the Refine Edge feature. And this is how we can still use it today to refine the edge of our selection. As mentioned, making selections within selected mask is pretty RAM heavy, so we've made our selection outside of it and we're just going to refine it now. I'm going to go to select and drop down to select and mask. And there's a number of ways to view your selection. You can use onion skin or marching ants or overlay, and overlay I quite like as a general method to use. It's very much like quick mask, or you can view on black, on white, or black and white, which is also very useful if you want to see what it looks like as a mask, or you can see on layers. And I'm going to use overlay here, and you can actually change the color of your overlay mask here, and I'm going to change it to blue so that it contrasts with that red there, and then I'm going to up the opacity of this overlay feature as well. So we've got edge detection. To show you what edge detection does, I'm actually going to go to the black and white view, and I'm going to up the radius. It's up to about there. As you can see, edge detection basically will expand what Photoshop sees as the edges of your mask as you up the radius. And this can be really useful with hair masks, and I'll show you why. If we zoom in here, you can see that it's actually gone in and found the different areas here. These would probably have been the highlight areas or the areas of skin that didn't, if we put it on onion skin there, the areas of skin that didn't look as much like the red areas of the lips. And it's gone in and found those edges and refined them. So that's why it's really useful for hair masks. Then we've got our global refinements. And the smooth feature will smooth over any jagged or pixelated edges. As you can see there, it's smoothing that over. And if we take it back down to about there, then we can look at the feather feature. And this will basically blur your selection or mask. Then contrast will increase the contrast between the black and white areas of your mask, and it'll really just tighten and sharpen them up. As you can see, it's done that there. If we pulled it all the way, it would become quite a sharp edge, and taking it down takes it back to a much softer edge. And then we've got shift edge. And shift edge will shift your edge outwards if you move the slider to the right, or inwards if you move it to the left. It's much like the expand and contract options that you find in the modify selection menu. So I'm just going to shift the edge to the right, and as you can see, it expands it, and to the left, it contracts it. Then lastly, you can clear your selection, or you can invert it. Invert that to the other way around. Then you've got your output settings. And you can decontaminate colors. And this is just when you've made a selection of something that is against a strongly colored background. You don't want that background color to bleed into the edges of your selection. Decontaminate colors will do that for you, but it's not always perfect, so you might want to be careful with that. And it's quite nice to check remember settings if you are making a selection and you've got your global refinements, how you would like them in general. Then you can press remember settings, and this will help you just to quickly get to those same settings anytime you need. And you can either just press OK, or you can go in and adjust them more as needed. Then you can output to various options. You can output to a layer mask, a new layer with a layer mask, a new document, or a new document with a layer mask, or a selection. And I like to press selection, which will just give me my marching ants when I press OK and leave select and mask. So that's your right hand side here. Then we've got the left hand side, and this is generally for making your selections. As mentioned, we're not going to be doing that here because it is very RAM heavy and will just be a bit of a slow process, but I will give you a brief description of the different tools. So you have your quick selection tool, which works in the same way as previously discussed outside of select and mask. It's really just the same tool. And you've got your refine edge brush tool. This will go in and refine what is selected, and it can be helpful in selecting areas like hair. Then you've got your paintbrush tool. This you can use to just freehand paint in areas that you'd like added to or subtracted from your selection. And you've got the lasso tool, and you can do the same where you can add to or subtract from your selection with the lasso tool. And as mentioned with all of these, you've got the plus and minus to be able to add or subtract from your selection. The hand tool will just allow you to pan, and the zoom tool allow you to zoom. So now that we've got that nice soft lip edge, I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to get my marching ants, which I can then just zoom out a bit. I can then apply to a layer mask, and I can do whatever I would like to with that from that point. And as you can see, it's quite a nice soft mask now. So that's a quick overview of Select and Mask and some of the more standard selection tools.